Hello and welcome to episode 104 of the Dragons Are Real podcast. My name is Pete Jones. So there's been quite a bit going on at Kickstarter at the moment. I recently backed the Level Up 5e hardback version at 120 quid. No, it's a bit expensive, but playing a lot of 5e at the moment, and I like some of those variant rules and variant monsters. And another one that just caught on my radar is Mothership. Now I did buy Mothership 3 years ago when it first came out. It was quite innovative. It had some really nice layouts. It's a D100 system for those that don't know, and it had a really clever character sheet, which was a workflow, so you could follow this workflow just from the character sheet. You didn't have to refer to the rules. And now they've brought out a new edition, which they're calling First Edition, with the previous edition now Zero Edition. So you can get the digital bundle for £22, but they're also doing two print sets, a core set and a deluxe set. So what are the changes they've done on this new first edition? Well, combat and violence has been simplified. They've moved health from a HP to a wound system to make it more visceral. Armor, it's no longer a save, but now it uses destructible points, so it wears away. Levels have now been removed, getting it away from the OSR types feel, and it's gone to a shore leave system where you train and build up your skills that way. They've rebalanced the classes, overhauled the stress and panic mechanics, and the character worksheet, which was really one of the things it was praised for, has been simplified and made more readable. So we've got the two sets. We've got the core set, which is £44, and the print set, and in that you get the player's guide, the warden's manual, and unconfirmed contact. The deluxe set is £73 and adds the scenarios for Dead Planet, A Pound of Flesh, and Gradient Descent. So if you like Mothership and you want to get yourself on the nice new printed versions, then check out the Kickstarter. A few episodes ago I mentioned chase rules, and as you know, I'm not a fan of chase rules. Well, last night when running Adventures for Middle-earth in the Eriador guide, they had another set of chase rules, so I thought I'd give them a whirl. And the way this works is that when you have a chase, then each companion must make a DC 15 survival or stealth check. Each success earns them 1 point. If they succeed by 5 or more, they earn 2 points, and if they roll a natural 20, it's 3 points. And what the company has to do is they have to accumulate 8 points in total, and when they accumulate 8 points, then they are so far ahead of their pursuers that they have lost them. Whenever they fail a check, they gain a level of exhaustion and gain 1 failure. And once they get 3 failures, then the lead is obviously less than 8, then they have been caught up. And this ran really well in my game last night. We had players spending inspiration early on to get to build their leader. Once they got to 2 failures, though, then things got a bit more dicey. The players had no more inspiration left, and the last player to roll on it, he had no inspiration, and if he failed, they were caught by this troll party that was chasing them. Otherwise, they got away. And do you know what? He went and rolled a bang on 15, so that was really good. It ran really smoothly, ran really well. Probably had a bit more flavour text next time, but I just wanted to see it, what it was like. And yep, I can highly recommend those chase rules. Next up in Foundry, there was a post on Reddit by Ripper93, and he's doing some wonderful things now with 3D in Foundry Virtual Tabletop. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I will show you the video that he's posted. Looks really good. He has got some Patreon-backed models, Patreon-backed system for doing this. It's going to be a paid module, and why not? Because it's spending a lot of time on this. I think he's got about 19 modules in his Patreon now, which adds to this 3D system. And it's taking tabletop simulator-like controls into Foundry Virtual Tabletop. You can also import your 3D models, just use your normal 2D maps, and he's doing a lot of work on this. So if you want a bit of 3D in your Foundry VTT, then check out 3D Ripper. He reckons that he's running this on a 7-year-old laptop with integrated CPU, and if that is the case, and this looks quite amazing, so check that one out. But also in his post, he mentioned about getting 3D models into his system. You can import a load of STL files from the DM workshop on Shapeways. He's got over 3,000 STL models, including all the 5e monsters, I believe. And although when you visit the website, it shows the price, that is for the printed models. Create yourself a free Shapeways account. When you click on the model, it gives you the ability to download the STL files, and then you can import them into this 3D Ripper modules or Foundry, or if you want to use them for Tabletop Simulator or any other 3D stuff, then fill your boots with that. So that's what I'm going to chat about Kickstarter and other interesting things. I think it's time to get on to the main subject. So I recently picked up Neverland hardback book by Andrew Kolb. This is £15 in PDF from DriveThruRPG, and the hardback is a recommended retail price of £25, which is very reasonable for a hardback. But the reason I picked it up is I got it for £13. £13, but that's with free postage. And although I gave it a miss last year, I thought for that price, you know what, I really can't bypass that. It's marked on the cover as 5e compatible, and I'll touch more on that later. And I also had the thing that put me onto it really was somebody said on one of the blog posts that there's a simplification of the 5e monster stats, and yes, they have done that. So I will go into more detail with that one as well. So the first impression of the book, it's a good quality hardback with a simple green cover with the 5e compatible logo on the right, and on the end papers you got some nice gold leaf design. The typeface gives an old book feel. It's basically laid out in 3 columns. All the artwork is a mix of reds, greens and monochrome art. It's very stylized, but it does fit in well with the overall theme. It comes across as a children's book with a little menace. So this is a setting book and not a rule book, and it can be used with 5e, or in fact it can be used with any OSR game. It's aimed at GMs, not players, so you don't really want your players to be poking at this one. It starts off with the world and gives a description on what this version of Neverland is. All your favourites from the books are here: Peter Pan and the Lost Children, Captain Hook, the pirates, and of course the crocodile. And it also explains all the different factions that make up Neverland. The themes from J. M. Barrie's book really are cleverly woven into the game, and the themes of time, growing up, parenthood, and having a home. So this setting is a hex crawl. There's no single story to follow, and it's up to the GM to help to use the book in crafting stories around the information presented in the book. Time and Travel uses a clock system for both time and distance, with distance being measured in time to travel. And if you've read the book or actually seen the Peter Pan Disney film, then you know the clock has a big part to play. And basically a clock is 4 hours of time, and as I said, distance is measured in time. So if it takes you 4 hours to travel somewhere, it would be a clock to get there. The 24-hour day is split into 6 blocks of 4, and then the month is a 4-week month, with each 3 days having a fixed phase of the moon. At certain times of the month, the crocodile moves a location to lay her eggs, and at both 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. every day, there is a chime that appears mysteriously on the island that nobody really talks about. Nobody knows where it comes from, but at these times, special events happen at the different locations. There is also a starfall that routinely occurs once per month, and when the starfall hits the Neverland, it has a source of power for non-magic users, which they can tie into their backgrounds. But any magic created near a starfall is unstable. There's a system for fun and games, so you can play hurling, run fairs, parties and concerts in the rules. So that's some nice little additions there. And then they've got some advanced rules. Yet again, there's another set of chase rules, and as you know, there's becoming a bit of a theme on this podcast, but this is another set of innovative chase rolls for 5e, and it basically uses a paper, rock and scissors system, which is, they've been renamed. The rocks are attacks, papers are evade, and scissors are sprint. And each character takes a round with the GM, and the GM sets the conditions. So it might be you've got to get 5 wins before you get 5 losses. So each round a player has a bout of rock, paper, scissors, or attack, evade, and sprint. And attack beats sprint, sprint beats evade, and evade beats attack. And when you win, you get a point. And also, if an attack wins, they gain an advantage attack against their opponents. If the attack loses, they get a disadvantage attack. And if both use an attack, then both sides make an attack. If a sprint wins, they both roll checks for environment, and if the sprinter wins, they may also remove a failure. If evade and sprint have draws, then the pursuer rolls a check for the environment, and they either get a half win or half loss. So again, it's a nice simple system, and it's not going to really work on a VTT, but I think in person, doing the old paper, rock, scissors, it could be quite a nice way to do it. Then we get onto the cast. So this is 40 pages of NPCs and a bestiary with a lot of flavour for the setting. Each NPC or monster has a short background information, and then we get onto the stat blocks, which they say are 5e compatible, and they're not quite 5e, but they're a mix of 5e and OSR. So each stat block uses a HD hit dice, not a CR. There's the hit points listed, the armor class, and the speed. And then we have a save, which is 3 numbers, typically something like +2, +1, and -1. And when a save is required by that monster or NPC, the GM uses the appropriate one, depending on whether they are proficient in something like that or they are not. And these saves also act for the attack bonus. So the first 2 of the bonuses you add together, and that is the attack bonus. Then any resistance, immunity, and weaknesses are listed. And then we move on to attacks, which is the type and the damage it causes. And of course, it doesn't need to list the attacks bonus because that is used for the save. And then it has any special abilities or spells the creature may have. So it works really nicely. All creatures have monochrome artwork, and the stat blocks are nice and easy to read, a lot easier to read than the 5e. And obviously you can use them with your old OSR style games. So for example, if we take the Daggertooth Tiger, it's got HD 4, 50 hit points, 13 armor, speed of 30, its saves are +4, +1, and -2, and its attack a magic bite, which causes 1d6 +4, claw 2 attacks, each 1d4 +1, a pounce is 1d6 +1 +1d4 for every 5 foot it moves this round before it attacks, up to 3d4, and save or fall prone, and its special has advantage on stealth, on hiding in jungle. So nice simple stat blocks there. Then we move on to chapter 3, which is the island, which is 30 pages, and this is the map of the island, and there are 24 hexes to the island, and each of the 24 hexes is listed. There is a nice isometric map on page 55 with the hex map above it showing you where all the hexes are. Each of the hexes has a 1-page spread, and it's got a skeleton of ideas that need fleshing out by the GM to work. So the procedure, the way the hex crawls work is, first of all, when you enter a new hex, you roll a d4, and that is how many hours into the exploration of that hex an encounter occurs. If you roll a 4, then the encounter occurs at the destination. Otherwise, you haven't encountered that many hours in, and then you roll again for the next encounter. So there's going to be a minimum of 1 encounters and a maximum of 4 encounters per hex. And when you have an encounter, you roll a d20 encounter table and look at the table. The page, besides having the hex number, has a picture of the hex from the large map. It also has a small mini-map of the connecting 6 hexes around it, so that's a great way to, if they're moving out of there, it shows you which one you look at next, a short description of the event, and then a special event that happens at the chime hours. Then we have a D20 encounter table, which will give you a result of there's no encounter, and maybe an area effect, creatures, NPCs, or creatures and NPCs together, multiple creatures. You get that sort of idea. There's a D12 table for each one with the area effect for that area. The D12 creature type table for that area as well. So each area has got a different chance of creatures coming out, and a D12 table for NPC types. And then there's also a D6 exploration table on each page as well, and that is when they're exploring the sort of past discoveries they can find on the island. The next chapter, chapter 4, is on Elphame, which is a fairy plane which is accessed via Neverland. It's got customs and courtesies that occur in Elphame, but things like stealing and giving, eating, the role of children in the plane. It covers things like changelings, the lost boys, travel within the plane, and is split into 24 regions. Each has a short description and what you are likely to meet there. However, there is a lot of work that needs to set this bit up, so this bit is a bit quite sparse. Chapter 5 is 48 pages, and that is all a number of resources, and it starts off with some maps and details of specific locations on the island. So for example, we've got the coral caves on the surface, we've got the crocodile with a nice map and what you can be found in different parts of the crocodile. There is the Jolly Roger with the different decks of the ship and what you can find on each of the ship. There are a myriad of tables in this resource section of motivation tables, random tables for names, loot, rumours, start, surge effects, plot hooks, objects, traps, games, animals. There is a absolute amazing number of tables. There's also another load of monsters secreted away in this section as well, which is part of the skull, which is one of the locations on the island. And again, it follows the same format, but we've got things like oozes and swordtooth and dragons, so it even adds more and more of these creatures to you. And in this part, besides just having the normal Neverland creatures, they've got some more creatures that you would find in a 5e or OSR book, slightly more stylized, things like skeletons and that sort of thing. So these, if you like tables, then this book has got a bunch of them all scattered through this section. And then we get on to chapter 6, which is Tales from Neverland. This is 8 short stories, each of between 1 and 6 pages. Not much use for the game, but it gives you a flavour of the type of story. If you like short stories, something there for you to read. And then we get onto a page of external resources. So we've got some artwork, we can find artwork, music that fits in with the setting, some random tables, some role-playing modules, and then a bit of a splurge about the author and thanks. And then there's a nice section which I thought was quite nice, was some rough artwork that was used in the development of the book. So he's included those, some nice little pictures here that you can look at and see how they developed, which I thought was very good. And there's also some mock-ups of the book covers that they were going for before they got to the final version. So I thought, yeah, that was quite clever as well, with a nice map at the back. So that is Neverland by Andrew Kolb. I thought it was a good read. Certainly for £13, it is well worth it. I've already adopted the stat blocks for running my face-to-face 5e game because it is a lot easier to run the creatures from that. One thing I did notice though, it doesn't tell you how to get started in the adventure, so there's no clues on that at all. So whether it's in another plane that your players arrive at, or whether you live there or you've been taken across by Peter Pan, then that is going to be figured out on where you would start. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but once you have got yourself set up there, then this book is an incredible resource for the price and really high quality. So that's all for this episode. If you want any more information, remember, check out the website at petejones.neocities.org. Remember now that I've got an itch.io page. That's dragonsareal.itch.io. There's obviously the blog, and you can send me an email by the dibbly-dooblas in the check out the notes below the video or the show notes in the audio, or you can catch me on the Audio Dungeon Discord. Thank you ever so much for listening, and I'll catch you all on the flip side.